Hello everybody. After a very quick time in the beta, part 1 of the cursed Confrontation update has hit live, introducing some new Thermic themed tools and the almost conclusion of the Lunar Sanctum questline. Today we're going to be going over the changes between the beta that I last covered on this channel to the version live we have today. There's been quite a few nifty changes, so let's see about quickly diving on in. As you may have heard, it's also Clayfest, the big yearly anniversary of all things Clay across all of their games. This year round we got new content for a lot of their titles, including Don't Starve Together of course, as well as huge sales across their entire catalogue. However, upon logging in, you will be presented with a lovely Clay themed chest. Crack that buddy open in your treasury to get all sorts of Clay related skins, including outfits based on the duplicates from Oxygen Not Included, a ninja mask based on the Mark of the Ninja, a universal character skin for every survivor in the game based on Hazard from Hot Lava, and the best thing of all, a pet version of Eets himself. This has got to be the best update we have ever seen. On top of those freebies, as well as a new Twitch drop you can earn by watching your other favourite Don't Starve Together creators, there's also a couple of new skin sets to buy or weave, including Stampeder skins for Wirt, Maxwell, and Wolfgang, plus a new skin collection, the Aged Collection, with amazing skins for Walter and Winona. Finally, there's some new Rose-themed furniture and tool skins, including a pitchfork skin, yes! That you can also get. And don't forget, you can also now bulk unweave duplicate skins from a handy little button in your curio cabinet, cutting back on the time it took to do it before. One last skin related thing before we get into the update is that I'm going to be doing a bunch of big giveaways over on my Discord to celebrate Clayfest. Resurrected skins, spools, starter packs, all sorts of stuff. So dive on over and check that out. Self-promotion over, time for the actual update. First up, the Thermic tools. These are nifty tools for almost every archetype, except pitchforks please Clay, that function as workable thermal stones, in a way. The hotter the tools are, the hotter you are, and the more efficient the tools are at doing their job. So the hotter an axe is, the quicker it chops down a tree. But more notably is that the tools will not lose any durability unless their temperature drops too low, exactly like how thermal stones only take durability damage if they go from too hot to too cold. Basically means you can keep these thermic tools alive forever as long as you keep them warm. Now these tools didn't get many changes from the beta besides fixing some bugs with their durability when used as a weapon, since the originally planned searing damage properties they wanted to ship these tools with is being pushed back to a later date. It's interesting to see what they cook up for that. They had the idea of it being armor piercing, but I guess it might be different now. However, a noteworthy change that we can mention that did make it into this update is, as well as having their crafting costs cut down slightly since the beta, is that they are now significantly easier to obtain thanks to thermal glands dropping 50% of the time instead of the original 33%. With how annoying these little things can be to get sometimes thanks to the geothermites being a rather annoying enemy in an even more annoying biome, a little boost in drop chances makes their items way more desirable. Speaking of desirable items, the Hot Coals, which are a new type of unbreakable searing based trap made from said thermic glands, they now deal more damage. In the beta they did around 7.5 damage a second, and in live they now do 10 damage a second. Not a crazy amount, but 10 DPS from an unbreakable trap that is only powered by a fire pit is perfectly fine by me. It's good for enemies that have really low HP like hounds, or even the woven shadows from the ancient Fuel Weaver fight. Though, the Fuel Weaver can dislodge the coals with his bone spear attack, so the viability of this strategy is pretty negligible. They are also now targeted by Thermalock missiles from the Warbot fight, so there's probably some really interesting utility there. I didn't mention this in the beta originally, but you can also cook things on these if you leave them on there, so you can make some kind of weird pseudo barbecue. On the topic of the ancient Fuel Weaver though, the Nightmare Amulet, which is often the best and sometimes only way to dissipate his barrier, got its price slashed as well, only costing 1 purple gem instead of 2, and getting a couple more seconds of durability. A nifty little buff. However, the reason these amulets got buffed probably wasn't because of the Ancient Fuel Weaver. I mean, it helps them massively, but the amulets themselves really help you in the fight against the new boss, the Ancient Guard Towers. The latest quote-unquote boss encounter for the Lunar Sanctum questline. Now, I went over these guys in the last beta video, but essentially, we're finally able to progress past the final room in the Sanctum, leading us to a boss encounter with the 4 Pillar Men. Originally, activating the guard towers needed you to use spark arcs, making the encounter only possible after a massive partway through the Lunar quest chain, which kinda sucked for a shadow-themed questline. However, you can now find Sanctum compasses that both A, point you to the direction of the guard tower room whilst in the Sanctum, and B, will allow you to collect security pulses from the sentry towers when holding the compass in your hands. You can then drag those security pulses over to the guard towers and power them up just like that. No need for any spark arcs anymore. A great and fantastic change. Thank you for listening to everyone's feedback play in the beta. Now that these big dudes are active, our goal is to pull these levers to get these weird ball weevil things and push them into the holes, whilst avoiding, or preferably killing, the guard towers. This is where that Nightmare Amulet change comes in really handy, because the guards will easily be distracted by shadows, letting you take them on way easier. Or just use like 20 worms to steamroll them like any other encounter in the game. But if you don't want to do any of that, their AI has been made way more tolerable. Originally, they would just barrel towards you all at once, which made for a very frustrating fight, and forced you to use shadows to distract them. But now? Well, they'll still all try to fight you at once, but if you're able to space them apart, like with shadows from a Nightmare Amulet, the ones that are far enough away will just point at you and watch, making it heaps easier to deal with them one-on-one. Because before, fighting 4 gigantic golems with a lot of knockback and damage wasn't the most fun of boss fights in the world. Another big change from the beta is that these guys now have their own unique drops. Originally, they dropped the portal shards, things that you could use as unbreakable gems to power telelocators and teleport between them at will. By the way, telelocators now function on boats. But now those portal shards are gained from those broken portation orbs you can find in the archive, and refind in the forge that pops up after you take the keystone from completing the guard tower encounter. So that now means the Pillar Men need a unique drop since you get the portal shards from the portal orbs. And their new drop? The ability to just straight up craft your own guard tower. Anywhere you want. So now you could just build one of these huge dudes near your base, and congratulations, you never need to worry about any Hound Wave ever again. They can even solo a lot of bosses on their own. They will need a Spark Arc to activate, but I'd say that's worth it. It does mean you need to do a lot of the Lunar questline. But the ability to make giant stone dudes in your base is not the main reward for doing this Sanctum conclusion. You will also now be able to finally take the keystone from the Sanctum and give it to Charlie to power up the Ancient Gateway. Except that's still not in the game yet because this is only part 1 of the update, so all that this does is simply reset the Sanctum, which lets you get more of those portation orbs so you can make more teleporters. Eventually, putting the key in the gateway will probably take us to some crazy, insane location with huge amounts of lore and a really stupidly hard boss fight. But for now, this is all we get. Just a part 1 of a nifty little update. Final things to mention that made it to the live update, because I have nowhere else to put them, is that Willow's fire spells now dissipate miasma. If the thermal tools and hot coals weren't enough to tell you this update is secretly a buff for Willow, then I don't know what will. Also, night lights, as well as being immune to night hands, will now no longer be targeted by Ice Flingamatics. Might have to actually start making these things now that they're getting all sorts of buffs like this. I really do love it when Clay just buff random old items in these updates, like they did with the Ice Cube a few patches ago. It's really super duper nifty. And that's it for this update. A quick little overview since there weren't too many huge changes from the beta, since it was only in beta for like 2 weeks, and the update itself doesn't really have too many moving parts like an Insight tree would. Thank you all so much for watching. Let me know what you feel about this update down below. I would love to know how you feel about these smaller content updates, and your predictions for what will happen next after that gateway gets powered. Clay have confirmed though that the next update will indeed be part 2 of this update, so thankfully we won't have to wait too long to see what the actual conclusion is. For now, me and Kessie are now going to go reattempt that fumarole challenge again, because Clay just happened to add a bunch of new content to that biome right after we did a video there. It was just a pure coincidence, I promise you. Take care everybody, bye bye. Psst, good job of making it this far into the video. Eets, the very first game made by Clay, is currently free to buy on Steam right now. Go get it.